Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family. So, guys, as always, want to thank our Patreons for their support. We have an exclusive coming up over on Patreon, a lot of things in the works. I wanted to touch on gold. I love gold!
Gold.
Well, actually, I don't have any gold. But, again, gold, Anunnaki. Oh, those stories, any truth to them? Well, we know better. Absolutely. And yet, how much gold really is in Fort Knox? This is showing, and I've seen different numbers. In some cases, vastly different numbers. And again, we can never trust the numbers given to us by any official sources. But it says the U.S. government claims it has almost 5,000 tons of gold, but Fort Knox U.S. Gold Reserve has not been audited since 1974, almost 50 years ago. No one has seen any of it. So what is really there? And will Dodge go in and audit and find we have less, or, is there anything there? This is really interesting at this point in time as, again, the Department of Government Efficiency is tearing into the IRS as we speak, and many other things. You have lots of federal employees leaving employment. There is such a rapid evolution of all the systems on the planet going on right now. You have Macron calling for emergency summit amid Ukraine peace talks. The European Union needs to respond to 47's negotiation style, the Polish foreign minister has said. So you have Emmanuel Macron, himself a banker, yes, of the Red Shield variety, has called for emergency summit of European leaders after Moscow and Washington agreed to hold a Ukraine peace talk in Saudi Arabia without the EU being invited. Again, this what we're watching right now, it's like a lot of times things plod along. Well, this is not plodding. This is moving at a very, very fast speed.
I agree.
Yes, and again, we are not financial experts by far. We have always kind of looked at the monetary system as a means of control because that is what it is. So again, everybody proceed with caution. Just going to share some stuff with you that I feel that I would always make known to friends just so they could, have this information in front of them. So again, Ukraine not invited to the Russian-U.S. talks about Ukraine. Isn't this interesting? And then the U.S. asked European NATO members to count their troops. Washington seeks clarity on the scale of a potential EU peacekeeping deployment in Ukraine. I find all this really fascinating, especially because, again, the Polish psychic Christoph has really given a very good outline of really what seems to be transpiring. And he says, 2025 is the year of that financial reset, that financial collapse, crisis, and reset. So it's this year is what he is getting. He seems to have a very good resonance with financial issues. So I defer to him, but this also feels correct to me as well. Again, the system that we have in place came about kind of because of the chaos of the last World War. And if you look at it, these major wars always create economic conditions that bring about the necessity of tweaking things to complete revamping. And again, we have been in this Ukrainian war now since February of 2022, when the Pluto return of the U.S. was taking effect and starting to take effect. Of course, that peaks in Vedic astrology last year. So, what we see is just a restructuring of everything. And with the Bretton Woods system that came out, it ended up giving you some things that we probably just don't even think about on a regular basis. The U.S. dollar was pegged to gold at $35 an ounce. Oh my God. $35 an ounce for gold back in 1944. If you had a time machine, what could you do? Well, you could be Elon Musk.
You'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Creation of the IMF and the World Bank, control of capital flows, and the US dollar as the global reserve currency. Well, it kind of feels like we might be going through the whole process again this year. And perhaps it will last several years as these things, have a way to create conflicts in and of themselves. Again, if you are perceived to be taking things from your neighbor or doing things that are going to benefit you at the expense of your neighbor, it can cause tension. And there's enough tension in the world as is. When I saw this is from the Jerusalem Post. Gold revaluation to $142,000 an ounce. Just think about that. Bretton Woods back in 1944. It's not even 100 years ago, right? 81 years ago, $35 an ounce. That's what the dollar was pegged to. Now they're talking about revaluating gold to $142,000 an ounce. And so the thought Andy Schekman has here is that we should explore the possibility of a dramatic gold revaluation to $142,000 an ounce. A move, he argues, could alleviate the global debt crisis. Now, I found multiple sources were talking about this, and from different perspectives here. As this article from Financial Post is talking about, the fact that gold is soaring right now. What if the U.S. sold off some of its stockpiles? I don't see that happening unless they want to completely castrate the U.S. And when we say that, we mean, the world, the true world power structure, those in the shadows with the strings. So in a recent interview with Soar Financially at Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, renowned precious metals expert Andy Schekman made a bold claim: a gold revaluation to a staggering $142,000 an ounce. Just to let you know here, as of February 16th, gold prices have reached record highs, with spot gold trading near $2,942.70 per ounce. That's very, very high. And, when you look at it over the long term, you can see how the price of gold has been climbing. And it looks like we're heading up to Mount Everest at this point in time. If we just soar into the last 5 years, you can see it's dramatic what is happening. And I'm not an expert at all. This is not my expertise. This is not something that I've put a lot of time and effort into. Yet we do have a little silver, and we were blessed with silver from a friend. So the friend was paying for our services over the course of time, and said, I could pay you in dollars, or I could pay you in silver. He said, I got a hunch you should take the silver. So we said, okay. And so silver itself is another item. Now, silver's being, most experts will tell you, silver has been suppressed on the market. It should be worth much more than it is, also because it's used in a lot of technology. So again, I do think, gold and silver, and gold at $3,000 an ounce, that's something that not a lot of people are going to be able to afford in this world, but those that could, I don't think you could go wrong. That's just me, and again, the farthest thing from a financial expert. But can you imagine if that $3,000 an ounce, you wake up on Monday, find that they pegged this now at $142,000 an ounce? You're going to be sitting on top of the world if this does happen, unless there's a catch, which there usually is some sort of catch. Like, you have to, again, get some sort of certificate. Like, gold certificates and gold are two different things. Silver certificates and silver, two different things. Paper is paper, and, obviously it can be burned pretty easily, if you know what I mean. So again, if it's tied to some sort of CBDC system where you're not actually physically touching anything, then you're putting your trust in the illusion of numbers again. But here you go. So this might sound crazy, and it might sound like this is just one random, economics guy putting out his proposal, but it's the timing that really hits me. It's the timing. So, Sheckman, a frequent guest on financial news platforms, outlined this theory saying, put the gold, and as crazy as it sounds, Kai, you put it at $142,000 an ounce. That's kind of specific. And 100% of your liabilities on the U.S. balance sheet would be offset with gold and would give you options. Every $4,000 increase in the price of gold, the Treasury General account gets $1 trillion free and clear. He acknowledged the radical nature of this proposal, but emphasized similar revaluations have occurred historically. Roosevelt confiscated gold in April of 1933. They took it by force. The U.S. government took gold by force from its citizens in 1933. 1933 is it's one of those years, like 1871. You see so many major events happening. Paid everybody $20.56 for their $20 gold piece. Immediately, he devalued the dollar by 40%, making gold $35 an ounce. So, again, here's your $20. Now, if you want to buy it back, it's going to cost you $35. This is what they do. This is what governments do. They're thieves and they're robber barons. Where is Robin Hood? Where is Robin Hood? Yes. Sheckman pointed to the growing support for this idea, citing Senator Cynthia Lummis's proposal to revalue U.S.-held gold and use the proceeds to purchase Bitcoin. There you go. He also highlighted the unprecedented levels of gold accumulation by central banks worldwide, a trend he believes signals growing recognition of gold's strategic importance. Why would the central banks be purchasing it at a level the world has never seen, he questioned, and it's not stopping. There is a drive to revalue the price of gold to reflect a balance sheet across the globe that are filled with liabilities. However, Sheckman acknowledged the potential ramifications of such a drastic move. It would create hyperinflation quickly, it would eradicate debt across the whole spectrum, and would hopefully allow a new system to rise from it. Beyond the gold revaluation theory, Sheckman emphasized the strategic importance of silver. He highlighted the growing demand for silver from major industrial customers like China, coupled with declining global mine supply, creating a significant supply-demand imbalance. Silver's most asymmetrical risk-reward trade I've ever seen. Lowest downside, best upside. They're using our suppression against us. It's jujitsu. Use your opponent's leverage against you. Sheckman also warned about the dangers of a current silver market dominated by massive short positions held by major banks. That's a powder keg waiting to blow. The interview touched upon various other crucial topics, including the rise of CBDCs, the weaponization of the dollar, and the increasing geopolitical uncertainty facing the world. I'll give you guys the links. So, again, we're getting really close to that time. It does feel like it is going to be this year. Could they delay it? They could, but it does feel like it really is probably going to be this year. And again, I do think Christoph is one of the more gifted psychics. Cindy, when it comes to her gifts, she can basically contact almost anybody that's ever passed on. Yet, she has blocks when it comes to war and finances. And so that's why, I go more into the war, and neither of us are financial experts. And it's because of the nature of it. Again, this system was put in place by a conquering entity. And when I say this system, the whole concept, everything that we have economically comes from the conquerors of our section of planet Earth. And so it's their system ultimately. And really, I think the freedom lies in getting outside of the system. But right now, we got to navigate, because we're actually still in the system, even though we want to get out of the system. we have to navigate our way through these challenging times. And I think 2025 is probably the most challenging year in many ways. But I do feel, again, the peak may be somewhere around 2028. And I think when we get on the other side of 2030, that's where I'm envisioning kind of like the castle crumbling, the oppression starting to really break apart, and there being true pockets of freedom around the world. This is just the beginning of that in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at it and I see the very big fish eating the little fish and using them to sustain themselves, because the little fish are just simply trying to exist. The big fish, they know the rules to the game. They can take advantage of the little fish, and it just makes the pond very easy for them to conquer. And we don't live in a conquering world. We live in a symbiotic world. So we're very much out of balance. I don't think it's wise to look at money as a bad thing. I think we need to view it as an energy. It is an energy, and it depends on what you do with that money. To me, that's everything. It's like, are you going to make this world a better place with it, or are you going to go down a different road, and are you going to bring more imbalance? And we all have a responsibility here to help bring things into balance. We came here for a purpose and a reason, and we're all starseeds. Most everyone who's listening to this, we're trying to find a better place. We want a better world, and we look at our children, we look at our grandchildren, and I want better for them, and I'm going to be pulling for them. So here we are. Here, we just need to kind of prepare for everything and hope that things turn out, and prepare yourself as best as you can and your family, and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And as Christoph is quoted right here, it'll start this year. So again, this is the time to make sure that you have all your basics covered. And it can be tough when the inflation's insane. And I really don't know how so many people are doing it, raising kids at this point in time and feeding a whole family. I just don't know how people are making it, because man, it's tight. I grew up in a family that we were always week to week, paycheck to paycheck. That's the way my parents operated. They never owned a home. They rented multiple times. We had to move at the drop of the hat because of things that the property owners did. One guy was getting foreclosed on. We were really comfortable and happy in that particular house, renting it, and then he didn't pay his mortgage, and next thing you know, we had like 2-3 weeks to get out and find a place to live. And that's what I grew up with, and yet it was a household that was always full of love and happiness and positive vibes, because again, money can't buy you love, and it can't buy you happiness.
No, it can't, and we need to somehow level the playing field. This is what we're all called to do. It's like, how do we find that balance? How do we bring into balance? How do we help ourselves go into balance? And I feel so horrible for the families out there, because the food is so expensive, and it's like they are forced to buy this stuff that's only legal in the States. I mean, it's not legal so many other places, yet it's legal here, and families have to buy it because that's all they can afford. That's all they can afford, unless they have the means to grow it themselves, and not many people do. So we are on a very uneven playing field, and we're just trying to give people the power, empower them to help themselves. So we have a lot of work to do.
Absolutely, and we thank you guys for your support. We couldn't do it without you guys. As always, source bless and namaste.
Namaste.